I'm here to play soccer, so I thought I'd tell you the story of Josh Rios. Josh is the definition of perseverance. He grew up in San Diego in a predominantly Hispanic community, and he was introduced to soccer because his immigrant father pushed him into it. But what started as something he had to do turned into something he loved. Josh played at the highest club levels, always pushing himself until things took a turn. He went through some really major injuries, from a devastating cliff jumping accident that could have left him paralyzed, to a torn ACL, to an 8 month long concussion. All of that derailed him from his soccer journey. He lost an entire semester to depression, failed his classes, and he had to fight his way back physically and mentally. But Josh refused to let his setbacks define him. He rebuilt himself, slowly training and eventually transferring to UCLA, proving that resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about adapting, learning, and finding new ways forward. I literally found him while playing pickup soccer. He was the best person on my team, and he told me his story after. And now Josh is focused on sports psychology, and he wants to help injured athletes through the same emotional and mental struggle that he faced. His journey is proof that success isn't just about talent, it's about grit, determination, and never losing sight of what truly makes you happy. Here's to acknowledging students like Josh. Next up is Josh. Like, you've been playing for how long now?
Yeah, I mean, even now, like my knees still don't feel the same, you know? My injuries led me through an academic path, which I'm grateful for. Or actually, no, I'm not 24, my bad. My math is wrong.
Soccer is a weird thing to enforce. Did your dad play as well before that?
Yeah, not like really well, but just like he liked playing with his friends. And my brother played when he was younger, and I have an older brother, so
Okay,
yeah, that's where it kind of like stemmed.
cool. And you were telling me you come from a Hispanic community, and your dad is an immigrant as well.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your family.
Well, my dad came here to the States like when he was like 14, and so he like went to high school and did pretty well, but like my mom got pregnant when she was 17, I believe, so he had to start working, and my mom went to college for like a semester before it just got too complicated while she was pregnant, and so yeah, they just
And then when you
working for
guys
us.
moved to San Diego,
I've been living in San Diego my entire life.
oh, entire
Yeah.
life. Okay, cool. I remember you telling me something about um, the part of maybe San Diego that you're from is really like there's a lot of Hispanic people there.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
live in Barrio Logan, which is predominantly Hispanic. And it's just nice, you know. I feel like I'd like to live in a neighborhood like that in the future,
Yeah.
maybe even the same neighborhood. But yeah,
Yeah. Was there a lot of soccer players in that community?
Yeah.
I know there's like soccer is a big thing amongst like just people from Mexico and even people from that community.
yeah. There's like a park like right across my house that like a lot of like good kids used to play. I would play there like on some small teams sometimes.
And what kept you? So your dad sort of got you into soccer, and then you've been playing ever since.
Yeah.
What do you think kept you going and not just leave the game? Like you've been playing for how long now?
Started when I was like 4, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, like 20 years maybe.
Yeah. So what made you keep going for these 20 years?
Or actually, no, I'm not 24. My bad. That math is wrong.
Like maybe
like
18.
yeah, 18 years.
Yeah, something like that.
I just enjoyed it. Yeah. I got burnt out my senior year, which is when I started like goofing around, like parties in high school and all that. So, but yeah, like regained like some like passion for it, which is like why I went to community college to like get my scholarships back. But Yeah.
So you were from community college before UCLA.
Yes.
Tell me about the switch coming into UCLA and why do you make that switch?
Like why I chose to come to UCLA?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just like a good school academically, and it's really like people know about it. You know, it's
Yeah.
a really top university. I'd say the academics aren't really that different. Most of my classes so far have just been review of what I've already learned, with just like a tiny bit more detail. It's just faster paced, which is like still me. Like I have to get adjusted to that, but it's not that different.
Cool. Um, it's so funny that we literally met like 5 days ago just playing soccer, and I heard your story, and just you were talking about how you used to cliff jump and your entire story around that, and how you got injured doing that. And I was like really inspired just hearing that story. Can you tell me more about that story? Just because I heard it midway, I didn't hear it from the
Yeah.
start.
So basically, it was my uh, like senior year of high school when I like started drinking and all that, and like I got a bit too carried away, and I started cliff jumping because like when you're drunk, you're not really like conscious of like the fear or like even think about like the consequences. So it like started off small with like maybe like 10 feet, and then it just like kind of progressed. And then one day I was just like, we did this trail, and there's like a giant waterfall, and it was about like 70 feet, and I just sort of like jumped from it. Just, well, like I wasn't sober, so I wasn't thinking correctly. And like when you jump, you're supposed to throw an object in the water to break the water tension, or
Okay.
else it's like you're landing on concrete.
Oh shit.
And since I was drunk, I didn't do that, and all like the force went from like my feet all the way up to my knees, which it like literally felt like I like couldn't walk. And when I like got up to the surface from like being underwater, I like just swam with my arms and took like a bunch of painkillers and hiked up 3 miles actually. So
Really?
yeah. And then from there, like I went to the doctor, uh, like to the ER, and they like didn't believe me at first until like I showed them the video, and they're like, "Oh wow, like you really should be like paralyzed by now. Like you should be paralyzed, or you should have like tendons that are like snapped or ligaments. Like something should be wrong." But luckily, it was just like a massive bone contusion, which is just like a giant bone bruise.
Okay.
But like they couldn't tell me like how long that would last because they still like don't know. Like 2-3 times a week, and it was mostly just like trying to get my knees to like function again. And yeah, I mean even now like my knees still don't feel the same, like I can't really like sit crisscross applesauce, it's like if I push them like a little bit further, then it starts hurting.
Oh shit.
Or like the way she's sitting right now, can't really do that.
Really?
Yeah. And then yeah, like the recovery, like for me to like start playing soccer again took me about like a year and 8 months. But yeah.
And so let me get this straight. You jumped into like a pond or something?
Yeah,
Okay. And you said 70 feet or something?
about that. Yeah.
Okay. And you like hurt yourself when you landed. You got a bone
Contusion.
and you, while being drunk, hiked all the way up and went to the doctor.
I didn't drive. My
Okay.
friend drove, but yeah.
Okay. And then when you got there, they were like, you should be paralyzed by now.
Uh-huh.
Oh shit. And how were you able to make your way back up, like hike your way back?
Well, like I literally couldn't take like more than 3 steps like once I got out the water. But there was like a group of people who were like with us. Like they weren't in our group, but it was just a separate group, and they luckily had like I think it was Tylenol or some type of painkiller, which like I just got like a handful and like took them. And after like 10 minutes, I like felt myself being able to walk again. And I was like, okay, like I'll just get as far up as possible before like these were out, you know, because it's like, it was a hike uphill. It wasn't downhill. And it was either like, I think like a $3,000 chopper or like my friends like carry me. And I knew my friends wouldn't be able to carry me like up 3 miles. So I just like ran up basically.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what was the time like when you were recovering, the 1 year and 8 months?
It was very difficult. I went to school for a semester, did okay, and then my second semester, I like didn't make any progress physically. Like I just had a stump. Like no matter how hard I like exerted myself or how many times I went to physical therapy, like I just didn't feel like I was getting better. So I went to like a depressive depressive state, and like my grades just like went down, and I just like stopped going to class, stopped doing work, and I ended up failing that semester. And then the following semester, I didn't feel like I was still mentally there yet. I like made some progress physically, but it still wasn't like for me like enough. And I just worked, which is where I like started this pool company that I like, or pool business, and I just like fixed swimming pools and like all that. And but then I got back into school and my grades were a lot better, just because I felt mentally like prepared. And then I think a semester after that is when I started playing again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me more about, why did you start the pool business, by the way? Was that just on the side?
Well, yeah, my cousins, or one of my cousins, worked as that because his dad taught him, so my uncle. And it just felt like I knew I was going back to school, so, and he had a flexible schedule. So it just, I was like, if I do this while I'm not in school and I could like focus on it and like growing it, then like once I'm in school, it'd be like easy money, you know? It's not something I'd have to worry about.
And what did your friends and teachers tell you when you were failing school? How was just communicating with them and your family as well?
I honestly, I don't even think my parents know till this day. I didn't tell them. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was, well, because it was like all remote classes. And so they just thought like I was studying, you know? I don't think I told my friends either. I think I've only told one person. And he like understood just because he went through something similar in high school, like just being depressed and how it like affects your grades. And he was my best friend at the time, so yeah.
And if you could go back to the time when you were just making jump, what would you tell yourself at that time?
I think that's tough. I don't know if I would change anything. I just feel like I am where I'm now because of it, and I don't think I would be at this such like amazing university if I didn't jump. So while I'm not doing anything athletically, academically, I succeeded.
And you said you are who you are now because of that experience. Tell me the top thing that you learned out of that experience which defines you right now.
Just everything happens for a reason, you know. When I like started playing at community college again, like 2 days before preseason, my best friend who was also playing on the team, he like tore my ACL and MCL. And so I think because of what I went through, like I knew like mentally I'd be able to handle it. And then I came back like probably towards the end of the season, like right before playoffs, and same teammate, my best friend, ended up giving me a concussion, and that lasted 8 months. And I think that was like also a tough thing to deal with because it wasn't physically, it was more mentally. you know, like your brain, like nobody can see that, so like nobody like knows like how serious it is. And I feel like when people say like, oh, like I had a concussion, they just think, oh, it's gonna last 2 weeks and you'll be fine. But yeah, like the concussion was also something that like I think shaped me in like a really big way. Sorry, can you ask the question again? I feel like I rambled on.
I guess, I mean, I just asked what was the thing that you learned through that experience, but I have a follow-up question about this concussion feeling as well. It's interesting that you talk about how anything that happens mentally, people can't see it, and so a lot of people just don't empathize with you. Explain to me what the concussion felt like, and if just was it worsened by the fact that people couldn't see it?
Well, it lasted so long just because I received it like 4 weeks before the semester was over. So it's like I had to deal with how I was going to finish the semester, you know? And I was taking 4 classes at the time, and 2 of my professors were really like lenient and were just like, okay, like, we'll give you incompletes, which is just like I have to finish like everything, like the remaining 4 weeks, the following, like by the end of the following semester. And then my other 2 professors were just like not lenient at all, and I had to deal with that for 2 weeks. Like one of them forced me to go to class just because attendance was like a grade factor, and the other one just said that this isn't like a last minute thing. Like technically those incompletes are for like 2 weeks, and it's like it has to be an emergency, but this isn't, like he didn't deem it as one. So I spent like 2 weeks like having to call like the department and talk to like the dean of the department until like finally the dean of the department was like, okay, you know what, like I'll talk to him. And immediately he was just like, okay, just finish it by the end of the following semester. But by then, like when you have a concussion, like you're not supposed to do anything. Like you're not allowed to think. Like just lay in bed and do nothing. You know, like if you're gonna listen to music, it has to be music without words, or else like you're gonna be thinking about the lyrics. You know. And so because of that, it like took so long for me to recover, and I had to debate on continuing with school or staying for school another like full year, basically, because none of the schools that I wanted to apply to like accepted or spring transfers. So I went to school, and immediately I like felt what the issue was, which is like I couldn't stare at screens for longer than 30 minutes, or like I just received a headache. And before that, like my friends would like ask me to go out, and I'd be like, oh, I can't, like my head's hurting. They'd be like, oh, come on, like it's been over the 2 weeks, you know? And like that's the thing, like the main thing is like it's supposed to last 2 weeks. But I feel like they just didn't understand that because of like all the other things that I had to stress about, it's lasting longer. So like they'd invite me out to eat, and I'd be like, is it like a loud restaurant? Like, are we just gonna get takeout, like, and just eat in the car? Like, if that's the case, I'm like, fine. And they'd be like, oh, come on, like you can come out, like. And so, like with school, I had to stop going to one of my classes just because, like my professor just didn't know how to teach, and a lot of other people felt the same way, and so. We just like formed a study group, and I just didn't go to class and went to that instead, just because it felt like it was a better, I guess, exertion of my energy, because I actually learned that way. And it wasn't until like a couple weeks later where like I told him, because I like ran into him on campus, and he was like, oh, like I haven't like really seen you like in class. And I just explained the whole situation. He was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like if you want, like I can just reserve like an hour or two during like the week for you to like come, and like I can just teach you. And like I would go every now and then if the study group and I like couldn't figure out something. But yeah. So that's what I dealt with like during the concussion.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
And you said that transformed you fully. Can you tell me how it transformed who you are now? What is your mindset about just college and just learning?
Well, I feel like that definitely made me like interested in the field of like sports psychology, just because it's like it like made me think about like not many people talk about like how tough it is like coming back from an injury, you know. And it's like you have a lot of pressure like if a coach is like expecting you to play and or is like waiting for you to play, and it's like you're hard on yourself because it's you have to go to class and then you have to like go to the practices and then do rehab, and like that's just very time consuming, you know. And like you like travel with the team still. It's just it could be mentally draining, you know, and emotionally as well, because I feel like a lot of people also like who don't really experience like big injuries understand like how frustrating it could be, you know. Like you feel like you should be like at a certain point in your recovery and you're just not, you know. And so that made me like be interested in sports psychology, and like I just want to help other people, like other athletes who are in the same situation. And I think it definitely like I feel like I've always been an adaptive person, you know. I like work with whatever I have, but this definitely like emphasized that that's like one of my biggest strengths. And yeah.
Just because you've gone through so much and you've gone through all of these different injuries, you would understand how all of the other athletes would also feel when they're going through something similar, right? What do you want to make an athlete feel when you're working with them through this career that you want to develop?
I'd say I just want to make them feel heard, and like just that they're not alone, because I feel like for me that was the biggest thing. Like if another athlete like at my community college got injured, like they were like good right away, you know. I don't think during my time there anybody had a serious injury. And especially like my friends and my teammates, like or my teammates who then became my friends, they just like didn't understand. They just felt like I should be back. And yeah, I feel like I fully would empathize with an athlete that, you know, they feel alone, like socially and emotionally, even though they're not truly alone, you know. It's like when you're surrounded with friends, but they just don't know what's going on mentally.
Yeah.
So
I remember you saying something about you told nobody about failing your classes, but this one person who understood you. Who's this one person?
he was my best friend at the time. He was the one that's literally involved.
That injured you?
Yeah.
Oh,
all the injuries basically. It's funny. He wasn't the reason why I like jumped the cliff. But he was there, and he like swears he told me not to jump. But there's a picture of him just like sprawled like on a rock, you know, just like taking a nap. Yeah, like right before it happened. And well, because he was also like drinking heavily, and so yeah, I think that it's funny. I don't hold anything against him. Yeah, I say was my best friend because we had a little fallout after the concussion. Like for me, he was my best friend, and I felt like he should have been there. And like after the concussion, he would just text me, "Oh, like, are you ready to train? Are you ready to train?" Because he also like had interest from like Division II colleges, and he ended up going to SDSU where he had a walk-on opportunity. And so like, and he knew this, and so he was just like trying to get me there with him, you know. And for me, it's like athletically, like I don't need you there, you know. Like I just need you emotionally. Like I need you to just be there to support me and like come over and just hang out with me. Like that's what I need. And he just wasn't there, and so like and he's not somebody who apologizes. He always thinks he's in the right, and like I totally understand that. Like that's just our relationship. Like he'll apologize in his own way, like, and I feel like most people wouldn't take it as an apology, but to me, since I knew him so well, like I would be like, okay, that's your way of saying sorry, but he just couldn't. And I think over time I realized, I think he was just scared to hurt me again, so he like sort of distanced himself a bit, and I don't blame him for that. And we've reconnected now, and like we're still pretty good friends. But this was only recently, so we're not as close as we were. But hopefully in the future.
And what's he doing now? Is he like a professional soccer
Oh
player or
no.
just playing?
So he walked on during last spring at SDSU, or had the chance to, and then literally, I think the week before he tore his meniscus, and so I mean, I feel like college soccer in general is very ruthless. So the coach was just like, if you're not ready, then this is like your only shot, and he just wasn't ready because of the injury. So he unfortunately is not playing college soccer.
If you could tell one thing to every athlete who's gotten a bad injury, what would that thing be?
Just make the most out of it. It's not the end of the world. My injuries led me through an academic path, which I'm grateful for. And yeah, I'd say just look at the bright side.
What would have happened if you didn't get injured? Would you have pursued soccer, I'm guessing?
Not like professionally, but I definitely feel like I would have gotten on a Division I team. Like most of my old teammates at the club level, they went on to Division I schools. So like I had interest, a lot of my other teammates had interest. Some didn't play college soccer just because of grades, but yeah, I feel like it definitely would have happened.
Now that you're at UCLA, oh, by the way, a thought that I have about what you said about not being a professional soccer athlete and just soccer in general. I've been a soccer player my entire life as well. I started playing when I was 7 years old. And I played in multiple different leagues back in India. I also played at the national level in India. Then COVID hit. And during COVID, it was like a tough time because you couldn't go out to play.
Yeah.
And all the teams all the leagues sort of took a pause. And then I'd kept like, it was almost like a linear path for me before that. I played at the school level. I was the school captain. Then I played at like the state level in my team. Played pretty well as well. On the national level team, I was the youngest player in my starting 11. And so when COVID hit, and after COVID, when I went back, I go back to the team, and it's almost like you lose all of that you've seen yourself grow in the past, and then you go back and you're like, oh, I'm not as good anymore, or I've lost touch. And then you realize, then my team told me I couldn't be part of the team anymore. I was not fit enough to play. And just the entire experience of going through all of that, I think first of all, soccer gave me more than anything that could give to me. I learned so much about just talking to people, just being friends with people, just leading people. But I think it was such a tough experience to go through all of that, and at the end of it, not have anything out of it. Like, I wish I'd played more. I wish I was part of the UCLA team as well. But yeah, man, it's tough being an athlete because you've got to constantly keep pushing yourself. It's like a train, and you'll be left behind if you don't do that.
I definitely feel, I resonate with that. I think that for me was like the toughest thing to accept, that like you were as good some time ago, and for me, like throughout all my injuries, I think that was like the most difficult thing to accept, was just I'm not that player anymore. And yeah, I feel like while I still may have like the natural talent, it's just just unexpected things keep happening. So it is what it is.
Yeah. And then you said, we were on the discovery call, and then you said, after all of this, you got a hip flexor
Oh
tear.
yeah.
Bro, why do you think you're getting injured so much? Like, is it bad luck or?
I think it's just like situations, you know. Like the cliff jumping incident was just me getting burnt out with like playing at like the highest level in the U.S. for like the longest time, and like hit, and so I just like started going out more in high school, like because it was my senior year, and I ended up playing at at the high school level for the first time, which was really fun, and I guess just like brought like the spark back, and um, yeah, and then the ACL, MCL, I didn't take the gym seriously at the time, you know? I didn't realize the importance of it. So I think after like the knee recovery of the cliff jumping, like it's just my muscles and I guess my tendons were just really weak. And yeah, I was doing 1v1s with my best friend, and he just like, I got the ball and he just like ran through my knee and ended up tearing both. And the concussion was just a freak accident, you know, could have happened to anybody. And the situations of trying to finish the semester just didn't help it. So it just lasted longer than it should have.
What's your biggest fear now?
Another major injury. And not in the sense of like soccer wise, because like I don't play soccer seriously anymore, but just like it interrupts my daily life so much, you know? And I feel like I try to be an active guy whenever I'm not injured. And so whenever I do get injured again, it's like I have to completely stop doing everything. And it's like I can't do things that I like to do, which is like hiking or like lifting and stuff. And so
Cliff jumping.
not anymore. But yeah, I'd say that's my biggest fear.
What's your biggest insecurity?
Like in terms of what?
Anything.
Anything?
Anything you're insecure about yourself?
I'd say, I guess, school related. And I know it's like normal for transfers to experience this, or just like people who go to university in general, but I think I'm experiencing like imposter syndrome right now. Just because like it literally feels like these past few weeks, like it's been a dream, you know? Like, so, and not in a good way. Like, it's just I don't know whether or not like this is real, you know? And it's like, I guess I have a fear of failing to succeed. I feel like the goal was this academically, and now that I am here, it's like afraid of not making the best out of it.
How do you work towards reducing that imposter syndrome for yourself?
I think I just cope with it and like just tell myself to be present. I feel like I'm doing well academically. Like it doesn't seem like the I guess subject of like all my classes are difficult at all. So I know like that's not going to be an issue so far, at least.
Something that I learned when I was a freshman and I came here, because I had a similar imposter syndrome experience. The truth about a college like UCLA is people come from so many different spots, and the level at which they are when it comes to maybe academics or just learning, it's really different. Like me coming from India, my level of being able to learn stuff, my level of skills is really different from somebody who grew up here. Even in comparison to just the culture shock of just being around such a place. I've never been in such a place, and I've never had such a lifestyle. And something that I learned, I came in and I was like so stressed out. I had so much imposter syndrome about, oh, everybody else is doing these amazing things. And I've got to keep pushing myself and keep doing these amazing things because everybody else is doing something. And then one of my friends gave me this piece of advice. He was like, when you're in a really competitive space, you've always got to be like a horse in a steeplechase. And I was like, okay, what do you mean? And he said, a horse in a steeplechase, the really cool thing about those horses is they have like these shutters by the side of their ears, so that they don't see the other horses and get stressed out about them running in front of them or get them running behind them. They're just focusing on the road ahead. And I think that was really useful for me. I think a lot of times imposter syndrome for me comes out of just comparing myself to other people. Especially when you're in your 20s and you're not the best at anything. It's hard to compare myself and be like, oh, I'm better or different.
Yeah.
Those are.
I think that's funny. Like, I mean, I can't speak for my roommate, but one of my roommates, I like asked him if he's like interested in like doing research this year or next year at all, and he's like, no, not really. And I was like, he's a psych major, so I feel like research is a big thing for grad school. And I asked him, I was like, oh, so like, what are you planning on doing with like your psych degree? And he goes, well, I want to go to grad school. And I was like, so you need to do research then? He's like, that's something to worry about at a different time. I just feel like it's so funny because like he's exactly like the opposite of what I'm doing, you know? Like, so yeah, I just think it's funny.
Yeah, and I guess he isn't wrong. Like, it's just when you realize that you'll be fine if you have those certain things for you figured out. I guess when you have your bases covered and when you have a strong sense of confidence in yourself, I think it just becomes better just going through college and life in general, for me at least. A question that pops up to my mind is, how has all of these experiences in your past, and I don't know if you're still feeling the concussion issue still?
There's like some permanent issues from the concussion. I have like light sensitivity, and so like before, where like I could probably be in like a dark room and like my phone brightness be all the way up, and like I would know it's too bright, but it wouldn't like bug my eyes. But now it's like I have to have my phone dim, or else it's like genuinely like my eyes, like the back of my eyes start hurting.
Oh shit.
I have to eat basically almost every 4 hours. If I don't, then I start getting headaches. I have to eat before and after exercise, or else if I don't eat before, like a light snack, then I start getting headaches while I'm exercising, or I feel very nauseous. If I don't eat after exercise, then same thing, like I get a headache or I feel very nauseous. So yeah, I do, like, and stress is like the biggest thing. I get headaches from like if I'm too stressed. So
how does all of that affect just coping up with college? Is it like school where you could go up to your professor and ask for an extension for a deadline, or is it different?
Even though I know I should, I think I'm too hard on myself and just don't ask for it unless I like desperately need it. But like I'd like to treat myself as like a normal person, because like I feel like I am. And so I just don't really ask for that.
Dude, when I saw you playing soccer here, I couldn't tell for shit that you went through all of that. You seem to be an amazing player, like you were playing like the others. And that's awesome, dude. Like, I'm really inspired. I had a question. I forgot. I guess, you talked about the importance of giving a space for athletes to be heard. That's what you want to do. Are you being heard right now in college?
In terms of what?
In terms of any problems that you face, do you have that sort of community? Do you have those relationships with anybody here?
I feel like I do. I tend to not speak on it just because I'd rather not stress other people out. Like, I know they have their own issues, and I think for me, like, I've learned how to like cope with myself. Unless I like really need to, then I do. But yeah, I'd say I do have a community if I need it.
Overall, what is the motivating factor that kept you going through all of these injuries? Just keep playing soccer. I mean, you started at 4, you're 22 now, you're still playing soccer. Even through all of those struggles, even through going a concussion, what's the thing that kept you going?
I guess just like the joy that I get from playing it. You know, it's really big. Like since I was little, like I knew, like, I mean, as cliche as the, you know, quote is, like, like when you step on like a field, like literally, like the worries just go away. And like, I mean, while it may not be soccer specifically, that's just the type of exercise that I enjoy doing the most. So it's, you know, exercise relieves stress and whatever you're worrying about. So, yeah.
Do you think it makes you feel normal?
I wouldn't say that. No, I just enjoy playing. Yeah.
Okay, fair. And I think one last question before we should start playing some soccer. The fact that we here for that. You said your fear, a big fear that you have, is getting injured again. How does that fear stop you from just living daily life? And part of it is also just being stressed about getting injured.
I wouldn't say it stops me. I like go to the gym now because of it. You know, I do like a lot of strengthening exercises and a lot of like rehab stuff that most people won't like think about doing. Like for me, like currently, like my hip flexors is a really big issue. It's like whenever I go to the gym, I like work on hip mobility and hip just making it flexible. So
Okay.
yeah.
2 more questions. If you could tell all incoming college students who were facing something similar to what you faced when you were coming into college, what would you tell all of them about college? What is college?
I'd say college is whatever you make it to be. Whether it's at a community college or a university, like it's what you put out, that's what you're going to get in return.
And finally, what's your unique Josh message to anybody who might hear this talk? And it could be totally unique to yourself and inspired by your personal experiences.
Say just stick to whatever makes you happy. You know, for me, I think that was what got me through everything that I went through, whether it was academically or athletically. And I think as long as you pursue that, then in the end you will be happy with whatever the outcome is.
Okay, cool.